Thanks for coming back to the Sunday Conversation. Let's get right back at it. Kevin Blair, he is the president and CEO of Pinnacle Financial. Kevin, we talked a lot about the mechanism of this merger that was finalized January 1st. I want to talk now about the community impact. The holding company for the bank will be headquartered in Atlanta. The bank itself headquartered in Nashville, where Pinnacle has been. Where does that leave Columbus, where Synovus has been headquartered for 130 years?
Yeah, well, look, I think about headquarter locations differently today than I thought about headquarter locations 30 years ago. And I'll start with that, Chuck, because I think it's important to know that I think remote work has changed the environment. If you go back to just entering this year, we are headquartered here in Columbus, Georgia. I have 13 leaders on my executive team. Only 5 of those 13 leaders are headquartered here in Columbus, live in Columbus. The others are spread out through our footprint. And so I think
that footprint was 5 states.
5 states.
It's 9 states.
It's going to be 9 states in the District of Columbia. So I think what's changed in not only banking, but what's changed in industry is that buildings used to matter more. They were the epicenter of what people talked about, where you were headquartered, because everyone sat there. With this new world and with the complexity and with some technology ingenuity, people can sit wherever. So I would tell you that it's not going to have a meaningful impact to this community. And what I mean by that is, yes, on a piece of paper, our company is going to be headquartered in Atlanta. By the way, Atlanta and Nashville are our 2 largest markets for the combined company. Nashville will be the bank headquarter. And when I sat down with Terry Turner, who was the CEO of Pinnacle, he said, look, if we're creating a growth engine for the Southeast, the #1 bank in the Southeast, you would be hard-pressed not to plant a flag in Nashville and Atlanta. Those 2 cities are the gateway into the Southeast. And so for us, it was opportunistic to be able to have headquarter locations in both, to symbolize how important both of those cities are going to be for our combined companies. But here in Columbus, we have over 850 employees that currently reside here. As we go forward, yes, we'll have some downsizing that will happen across the entire footprint. As I shared with you in our first interview, that will represent a little less than 5% of our workforce being eliminated during this merger, which is one of the lowest numbers that you'll see in any merger. This merger is not about reduction, it's about growth. And what we've already rolled out is that we plan to grow 10% a year starting in 2026 in loans and deposits. And what I would say, back to your question, what does it mean to Columbus? There's not going to be a great deal of job reductions here. They'll get their representative share, just like our entire company will see, less than 5%. But as I've said in the initial interview, a lot of our tech and operations area that we're using for the combined company will remain here in Columbus. And those 850 jobs that are here today, I would commit to you there's going to be over 800 jobs staying here in Columbus. So there won't be a big unemployment impact from this merger. What I would have you focus on, Chuck, and I'll let you get to the next question, is what I said in that initial interview is change is difficult, it's hard, and it's concerning, the fears. But I look at this change as an opportunity for strength. As this company, as the new Pinnacle Financial grows, and we grow at a faster pace, and we become the Southeast growth champion, that growth, that increased revenue allows us to invest more and to hire more people, not just here in Columbus, but in the 9-state footprint in District of Columbia, because as you grow, you're going to need more resources everywhere. And so yes, I do hear the 2 big changes here is that we'll have a different name, and it won't be the headquarter location. But if you blink, you may miss the impact. It's not going to be a major impact. We're not going to have wholesale movement of folks from this office to Atlanta or to Nashville. It's going to continue to serve as a very essential part of the go-forward company.
Traditionally, CB&T, Synovus have been huge players in the fabric of our community.
Yep.
Whether it be United Way, Chamber of Commerce, they have institutionally invested time, talent, and treasure into this community. Those investments continue.
Absolutely. Our commitment is this is our birthplace, and it means a lot to our company. It means a lot to our team members. When you 10% of your workforce living in the city, we want to make sure that we're giving a proportional level of philanthropic support into the community. I've said this in the past. Look, if you look at our philanthropic giving over the last several years, more than 50% of our giving has come into this MSA. And that is outsized relative to what the revenue contribution is of this market, and that's because it's our home location.
It's where the CEOs and people slept.
It's where we were. And so I would tell you that the commitment here is going to remain very strong. And I go back to my comment, as the company grows, it just gives us more resources to be able to contribute more. It gives us more hours to be able to give back to the community. And that's the thing that's lost. It's not just dollars. Synovus and Pinnacle last year contributed over 25,000 volunteer hours across multiple philanthropic engagements across the footprint. Here in Columbus, we're going to double down. The people that you see every day here in Columbus, the people that are in our office locations, the people that are serving our commercial relationships, they're not changing. And so there's not going to be a major change or a shift in our desire to want to give back to this community.
We watched as a community Global Payments purchase or get a 51% share of TSYS. And we've sort of seen the impact of that both in jobs and in investment. Is the Synovus Pinnacle merger, are there any similarities with what Global Payments and TSYS did, or is it a very different thing?
You know, it's hard to compare two mergers because everything's different, and I don't know the ins and outs of what technically happened in the TSYS staffing side. If you remember, when Global Payments and TSYS merged, we were also in the middle of COVID. And so I think a lot of those jobs that people talk about that never came back, I think that was a function of the environment, remote work, and the ability to have more fungible work environment. You know, as I said earlier, Chuck, it's hard to compare the two, but what I would tell you is I'm still living in Columbus, and we don't have any large-scale layoffs happening here. Our merger is being built and it's predicated on a growth orientation. And I think all of those things are going to provide an insulation for this community to know that it's not going to have a major impact. Again, the other thing that I mentioned earlier that people are most concerned about is the name. Right? And you may ask me, why did we choose the Pinnacle name? When we sat down and had the discussion, and it took several months to make this thing work, what I said to Terry at the time is every social decision we have to make in this merger is emotional. If we use emotion to make these decisions, we're never going to get to an outcome. Let's make every decision based on what's best for the shareholder. And the Pinnacle brand carries a higher premium in the investment community. They've been one of the fastest growing banks in the United States over the last 25 years.
So it made sense from a business standpoint.
Exactly. And I tell you, you know Jimmy Blanchard. Jimmy, I consider a friend and a supporter of this transaction. I called him before we made this announcement, and I said, Jimmy, we're going to do this deal, and we're going to be changing the name from Synovus. And what Jimmy said to me was, Kevin, I think that's a great idea. And I said, well, Jimmy, why do you think that? He said, if you go back to 1989 when we came up with the Synovus name, it was created to represent something that was synergistic and something that was new. And what synergistic and new meant to him in 1989 was you had 29 individually chartered banks that were all independently branded. And you had this really great company, Total Systems. He goes, that was Synovus. And so if you look at Synovus today, we don't have 29 individually chartered banks. We don't have 29 individually branded banks, and we don't have Total Systems. So he kind of joked with me and said, in 2018, when we changed the company's name to Synovus and eliminated those individually branded banks, he said, you probably should have changed the name then. So what changes in letters on a sign does not change what's happening inside the four walls of this bank. It does not change the people that work here. And in many ways, we think this new Pinnacle brand serves as a opportunity to expand those things, to make it better, and for people to feel as if this merger is bringing additional capabilities, higher levels of service, and allows us to win in the marketplace.
We're near the end of this, Kevin. Last question. Y'all were heavily involved in the decision to bring the Braves AA baseball team here, both corporately and financially. It's Synovus Park where they play. one of the questions I get is, when's the name going to change
Yeah.
on the baseball park?
It'll change the same time that we'll change the branch names, which will be in March. Well, it'll be for the 2027 season. So it'll be Synovus Park this year. And look, I would tell you that that's been a great opportunity for Synovus to help the community, not just because we brought AA baseball back, but to further invest in the southern part of the city. And you know, look, Chuck, we have 60% market share here. We are blessed to have that. It is something where we're very
That's
proud.
unusual for a 200,000 plus town
It's-
to have, for one bank business to have that much of the market.
It is. And so if you're looking at a marketing ROI, and now we're going to my marketing team and they'd say, do you want to spend money to go name a stadium? You probably would try to do that in areas where you're trying to build your brand, right? Not in a city that you have 60% market share. We did that because we are proud of the city. We're proud of what we've contributed to the city, and we want it to be a little part of what can help to not only develop that part of the city, but ultimately to bring something back that this city is proud of. And you saw that this year with the ticket sales that happened.
I mean, 60,000 plus, it broke the season's record.
Yes.
Season record for pro ball in Columbus. It was almost 100 years old.
Absolutely.
So, we're at the end of this thing. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you answering the questions and sitting down with us. You've been watching the Sunday Conversation. Our guest has been Kevin Blair. He is the president and CEO of Pinnacle Financial, formerly Synovus. Well, they still are for Synovus for the next 15 months. Thank you for watching Sunday Conversation. We hope you'll come back again next week. No telling who will be in that chair.